Welcome! I'm glad you're here. You're listening to Banjo Chat, where I bring in amazing banjo players and chat with them about their life, their music, their stories, their pitfalls, inspirations, and advice. So, join us on this journey into Banjo Chat. Hello, I'm Hillary Hawk, and this is my podcast. Welcome to the Banjo Chat. Hope everything's good. Hope you got through the day. It's a hot one here, pretty humid. It's July here in Brooklyn. On the show today, we have great banjo player Brad Kolodner. Brad is an amazing, multi-talented musician and one of the leaders of the Baltimore old-time scene. Now with his online banjo course, he's been reaching a much wider audience. He's a member of the in-demand Acoustic Roots four-piece band named City Junction. They're playing all over. He's just finished recording an album, which I'm sure he'll tell you about. He also runs the Baltimore Old Time Music Festival with his father, Ken Kolodner. And I believe it's the 10-year anniversary of that Baltimore Old Time Jam that they've been running. Is that right, Brad?
Yeah, we just celebrated our 10th anniversary, our 10th birthday of the Baltimore Old Time Jam that I co-lead with my dad, Ken. And as I like to tell folks, it's really a 10-year celebration of playing the same old tunes over and over and over again. And at our 10-year birthday, we even had a special guest appearance from the Baltimore Orioles mascot.
Whoa.
And we had a cake. And we had just it was a big party and a super fun time at this local brewery where we host the jam now. And really a celebration of how much this local Baltimore old time community has grown. And when we'll get into this, I'm sure, derive a lot of my inspiration and joy from playing this music and playing banjo, thanks to the amazing scene that we have here in Charm City.
Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. Did you say the mascot came?
Yeah, well, my dad and I are both fans of the Orioles, and this was not something that we planned, but some of our friends planned to have the mascot show up in the middle of the jam and present us with these goofy little trophies that have like a banjo and a fiddle on them, and it was very silly, and I felt like a 12-year-old boy, going back to my younger days as like a uber sports fanatic. Seeing the Oriole bird walk in now as a 33-year-old felt like a little kid. It was great.
Now you've combined nerdy things that you love, you're combining them all. It's coming into fruition now.
Exactly. It was the perfect blend of all things Brad.
That's amazing. Oh, and a cake. Oh, that sounds amazing. Well, thanks for being on the show today.
Yeah, it's really nice to be here and connect. I know we've crossed paths a number of times at festivals and camps and things, but it's great to finally sit down and just chat.
Yes, exactly. And I was thinking, I don't get to talk to you much. The last time I saw you, I think, was at the Baltimore Old Time Festival in the beginning of March this year in great downtown Baltimore. I forgot the name of the venue, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we held the festival at a venue called the Creative Alliance for the first 4 years of the festival. And next year, we are moving to a bigger venue across the harbor called the Baltimore Museum of Industry. And it's a little ways off, April 19th, 20th in 2024. But we are really excited about growing this festival. It'll be the 5th annual event. And we skipped a year in the midst of the pandemic, but we've had 4 of them, and they've pretty much all sold out. It's just a full weekend of concerts and jamming and workshops. There's a square dance. It's great for kids. There's a family dance. It's really a fun time, and we're just piecing together the lineup right now and getting ready to put tickets on sale this fall. And we're just really stoked about this new venue and an opportunity to just see how much we can grow this event but still keep it intimate and welcoming, and it's not going to grow into this massive festival, but we still we just want to see where it can go, and so this new venue really gives us that opportunity to expand it a bit.
I'm laughing because as soon as you say, oh, it's not going to turn into a huge festival, that's when it's going to happen, I was, just being there and seeing how many people were there. I was like, oh, this should be bigger. This should be bigger. It was so much fun. And so I'm glad. Congrats that it's growing. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's been quite a bit of work to find a new place that makes a lot of sense. It's right on the water. There's this big outdoor pavilion where we can host a square dance late into the night.
Yeah.
And this beautiful indoor space with all these nooks and crannies for jamming. and it's going to be a great time. And we're partnering with the former program director at the Creative Alliance, the previous venue where we worked, this fellow named Josh Kahn. So my dad and I and him, along with a team of organizers, are really working hard to pull off this event, and it's become sort of the crown jewel of the local old time scene, and a really nice way to show off all the things we have cooking here in Baltimore.
Amazing. I don't know how you have time in the day to do all the things you do. I really don't know. You have a lot going on, and it's all great stuff. It's not all, for your own purpose. It's really like community building and wonderful, wonderful stuff.
Thank you. Yeah, it all sort of feeds into one another. I like to say that selfishly, part of my desire to organize events here in town is so that I can have a square dance to go to, or an old time jam to go to around the corner, or a festival that I can look forward to every year. So yeah, there's definitely a bit of building these events because I really want to go to them and participate in them, but I also acknowledge that there's so many others that are have the appetite for these kinds of events that bring people together, bring joy to this community, and it's definitely been a very interesting process with each of the respective events, whether it's the jam or the square dance that we host every month, or this festival. I put on some house concerts as well, and each of those events, I really try to make sure that I'm acknowledging the folks who are there for the first time and really just exposed to this music maybe that night for the first time, and making sure that they feel really welcome and as if it's something that they could come back to on a regular basis, and not just for the folks in the middle of the jam, the hardcore, old time folks. And I, nothing against, the folks who are there in the inner circle there of a jam, or dancing up at the front of the dance hall, or right in the front row at the festival, but everybody out on the fringes as well, making sure that they have a good experience and are welcomed, and not, the vibe that can happen sometimes with old time, where it feels exclusive and just for those who are, the hot shot players. We really don't want that kind of attitude to come through. And so I think that's helped really widen the scope of the events and keep them sustainable, and really rewarding for us to see someone walk into the room and hear 40 people playing an old time tune, and their eyes just light up, thinking, what in the world is going on in here? What are all these people doing? And, capturing them and really, capturing feels kind of aggressive, but making them feel welcome and as if something that they can participate in as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of what you're doing. I mean, that's obviously why I have you on here, but you're really expanding the scene, and if you're new to old time music and you're listening to this, Brad mentioned like the kind of like inner circle of players, and that sometimes like when you have a jam, some of the better players are tightly, they're sitting next to each other so they can hear each other well. And that's part of the tradition. But it can feel like someone's back is to you if you're standing outside the circle. And of course, that's not the intention, but it can feel like maybe you're not allowed in to the inner circle. And so I think, having that kind of attitude that you have, where you're expanding the idea that everyone is welcome, but you're still keeping that tradition in check. I don't know if that's the right word, but you still have the right intentions, but you're expanding out the music.
Yeah, we still wanted to have that that community vibe, but also on the flip side of that, we do want to respect the artistry of the music as well, and that's really what the festival does for the community, is to show what this music can be like on a stage as well. I've recorded albums, you've recorded music, we're both performers, and yes, it's fun to jam, and the social side of the music is so much of it, but also the creative side, the artistry of it is something to be celebrated as well, and not purely social music, although that's where it comes from. It is also, I think, a valid, form of art that deserves to be on a stage and treated professionally, with nice sound and nice lighting and nice design and all the things that go into presenting music in a professional way.
Yeah, I agree, and I want to get to some of your music soon. But I do also want to ask you a little bit about your band, Charm City Junction. But I was actually, before we get to that, I was thinking about when I first heard you play and when I first met you, and maybe I didn't meet you, but I was thinking about it, and it was like 10, 12 years ago. I was at Clifftop, and that's when I first heard you play, and I loved the sound, and I was like, who is this guy? And and then I kind of found out, you're in Baltimore, you're close by, or close-ish by, since I'm in Brooklyn, but and then I started following you from there, but that's where I first heard you play at the banjo competition.
There you go. The
on stage.
The one, yeah. It's funny. I do that contest every year, and it is, folks ask, do you get nervous for concerts? And I usually tell them that at this point I don't get too nervous before a show. There's always a little bit of nerves, but for that contest I get so nervous, and it's just, I don't know what it is about it, but I kind of love that adrenaline rush that at that contest, and it really it takes a lot of focus, but I do think it's super fun. I usually walk up there. It's Clifftop, this amazing old time festival where my interest in the music was cemented when I went to that festival about 10 or 12 years ago. So that must have been one of the first festivals that I attended.
It must have been.
Yeah, and I go back every year, and it's just amazing to be at that place, that beautiful spot on that mountaintop with so many talented musicians, and it's just really a special experience, and I'll be there this year and hope to go back as long as I'm able to. As
long as you're alive. As long as you keep on ticking. Tell us a little bit about Charm City Junction. This is a great band. I've been listening to the album Duckpin. Duckpin is the most recent release, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one came out a few years back, and we just finished recording a new album, and it's a band featuring myself on banjo, and then we have a fiddle player, Patrick McAvinue, who comes from the bluegrass world, Sean McComiskey, a wonderful Irish button accordion player. His dad, Billy, and my dad, Ken, are actually friends, and they used to play together at local Irish sessions here in Baltimore back in the day. And the fourth band member is Alex Lacquemont, who is a bass player who lives right across the alley from me here in Baltimore. And so the four of us bringing together these different genres, old-time, Irish, bluegrass, have sculpted this sound, sans guitar, nothing against guitar, but it's an interesting combo, this accordion, fiddle, banjo, bass thing. And we really just got together because we were interested in making music just casually as a jam. We got together a few times back in, I believe it was 2013. So we're approaching 10 years as a band, which is kind of hard to believe. But we started just getting together to play tunes and share some tunes from our respective traditions, bringing in old-time tunes. And Sean would show us an Irish tune or two, and we would try to work it up. These genres often get put in their respective silos, and they don't overlap as much as you'd think. And it was a really interesting experience early on to realize that, these Irish tunes, they can translate to clawhammer, and these old-time melodies, they can work on Irish button accordion, and a bluegrass fiddler improvising over an Irish tune or an old-time tune, like it can work. And I think some of those boundaries that we put up are just in our minds, and until you actually try it, you realize, there's actually something here, and that's what we discovered when we started playing together. And I encourage anybody who's, maybe in their town they don't have an old-time jam to go to, but maybe there's an Irish session, bring the banjo and see, bring your 5-string banjo and see what they, how they react, and maybe it'll work, maybe it'll be fine, to play those tunes. You can play jigs on clawhammer, you can play waltzes. It definitely takes a little bit of work, but it's doable, and it's really interesting with that group to explore that kind of creative territory, fusing those genres. We write music as well, so we write original tunes. There's some original songs on this new album that we have coming out, hopefully later this year, and it's our third full-length studio album, and we've been fortunate to play lots of festivals, and we don't tour as much, but we do play maybe about 20 or 30 shows a year. So every month we have a show or two, mostly in the region, Mid-Atlantic, East Coast. But we'll be out in New Mexico later this year, and we've been out to the Midwest and throughout the South and stuff. But these days we mostly keep it closer to home.
That's great. I love what you said about trying the Irish music, and that music it has the old time sensibilities. You can adapt it for Irish, and that your fiddle player is a bluegrass fiddle player, Patrick, you said. And I was listening to this and I could hear that there was a little bluegrass sound to it. And I was like, oh man, this is awesome. Like, I'm loving this, just kind of this approach that you were taking on the banjo to the music. And I couldn't really put my finger on it, what it was. And now that you said that he has like maybe a bluegrass sound to his fiddling a little bit. I mean, it's subtle. It's like subtle stuff, but it sounds really great. I think in my world, and being in New York City, I get to really cross kind of pollinate different styles of music, maybe a little more than in other states. And I end up playing a lot of Irish music, playing with a lot of singer-songwriters myself, and whatever else, and bluegrass, old time. So to me, it doesn't feel, it feels normal to kind of like try out different elements and see how things work, because, it makes everything kind of feel more creative in my mind.
And it felt normal to me as well, because my dad, Ken, for many years played in this band called Helicon, which played traditional music from all around the world. They would play music from all throughout Europe and South America, and they would play Chinese pieces, pieces from Israel, like all over. And so it was an interesting combo. It was hammered dulcimer, guitar / cittern, and flute, wooden flute. So the band was called Helicon. They play one show a year here in Baltimore. They've been doing this winter solstice reunion concert in December that City Junction also plays in. And so growing up around that, I didn't really have a sense that there were these genre boundary lines, and that you could bring different instruments together, bring different musics together, and it can work.
Yeah, no, I totally believe it. I think it's great. I love that. I was thinking to listen to this tune that's on your Duckpin album called Turkey Trot.
Oh yeah.
Now, is it an original? I didn't.
This one was written by our bass player Alex Lacquemont, and he wrote it when it was around Thanksgiving, and he had just attended a local show in town and was inspired to write a song or write a tune when he got home late at night. And we were roommates for a while. I remember he was down in the basement where he was renting a room here at this house, and was just working on this tune, and we eventually worked it up with the band. And it's kind of a old time bluegrass fusion piece. Turkey Trot is one of our favorites. Actually, it's the tune we often end our sets with in concert.
Okay, sweet. Let's take a listen. Sounds so awesome. It's just like really cool playing. Like, to me, it sounds like melodic style, like you're playing the melody line and you're adding in some licks. I call them licks because they're kind of like triplets. I'm hearing like the triplets. I'm hearing like these hammer-ons, but you're also sticking to the melody, and it's really cool. It's like really fun. It's tasteful. It's not just rhythm playing. Yeah, do you have any thoughts about what are your thoughts on the playing in this?
Well, thank you. That's very nice of you. There's a lot going on in there, and I think some of it is derived from the first exposure I had to the banjo, who is a great banjo player out of Ithaca, New York, Richie Stearns. I took a beginner banjo workshop from him back in 2007. I was just entering my senior year in high school, and took this banjo workshop on a whim at a music camp, and I noticed that when he was playing, and to this day has a very melodic sense, but also a very improvisatory approach to the instrument. And I've always been drawn to the melodic side of the banjo, and how you can communicate on the instrument in ways that, that are just really novel for clawhammer. And I certainly have learned a number of Richie-isms over the years, some of those triplet things, playing up the neck. If anyone is familiar with his playing, you certainly would recognize some of those little patterns. But I think because I mostly play old-time music, I do like to stick to the melody in some sense. Like, yes, there's definitely improvising going on in there, and bits where it goes outside of the tune. I also enjoy listening to bluegrass banjo and listening to some of the vocabulary that has worked for many years on bluegrass and banjo, and trying to figure out how to translate that to the banjo, and to clawhammer in its own unique way. So some of those patterns up the neck, some of those licks, certainly derive from some of your classic Earl Scruggs banjo playing as well. So bringing together those influences. And I'm also pushed along by my bandmates in that group. Patrick McAvinue, great bluegrass fiddler, improvises like crazy in amazing ways, and so does Alex and Sean. And so they definitely push me to take more chances and be more adventurous on the instrument.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I love improvising, and I do that myself, and it's so great to hear you doing that. And talking about some bluegrass influence, I was listening to your album, the solo album Chimney Swifts, and you got Foggy Mountain Special on there. And
Yep.
and I was just so enjoying that because that's an Earl Scruggs tune, and that you decided to do on Clawhammer Banjo, and I was like,
Yep.
Yeah, right on.
100%. I remember being at a jam in Nashville a few years ago, and I believe it was at George Jackson's house. George, a wonderful fiddler,
Yep.
and who I've recorded with, and we were having a jam in his backyard right along the Cumberland River there in Madison, Tennessee. And in this jam was another great banjo player, Frank Evans, and he was playing three-finger style, and I was playing clawhammer. And I think it's fun to have a session where you have clawhammer and three-finger going. And he quoted a little bit of that tune, Foggy Mountain Special, in the jam when he was taking a solo on something. And I had, of course, heard that tune. It's a classic bluegrass number, and I do listen to lots of bluegrass and that. But for some reason in that session, it really clicked in that moment, because I wanted to kind of echo it and find it up the neck clawhammer style. And so I remember when I was flying home back to Baltimore, just that tune was just stuck in my head. And so the only way I could get it out was just to go to my banjo, and I don't play three-finger. So I was like, I really want to figure out how to play that classic Foggy Mountain Special line. And I just went up the neck, and there it is. It lays out really nicely, clawhammer style. So that was the inspiration behind that tune, and tackling it in a very much a bluegrass fashion on the solo record.
Yeah, when you were talking about banjo, I was going to ask if you fingerpicked, and if that's why you decided to do that tune. When I was first learning three-finger style, that song to me it sounded so hard. I was like, there's no way I'm ever going to play this song. And that to me was like a marker. If I could play Foggy Mountain Special, that meant that I knew what I was doing. That's what I told myself way back when. But so, if you're kind of new to banjo and you're listening to this, Earl Scruggs played a lot with licks. He had a set of licks that kind of streamlined banjo playing and made it really fast and kind of appealed to a wider commercial audience, and is a really fast and amazing playing. And he had a lot of jazz influence, and that's kind of, I think, what makes Foggy Mountain Special sound so cool, are the licks and kind of a jazz influence to it. Although it just sounds like a catchy, fun tune as well. And we were also mentioning melodic style and clawhammer, and I feel like in bluegrass are kind of similar, where I don't know, maybe you can describe it too. I feel like you're moving through maybe more on a scalar, with a scale. You're moving more through the melody with a scale, and playing more of the notes than just rhythm.
Yeah, I don't spend lots of time working on scales or arpeggios or different patterns like that on banjo. I definitely spend more time transcribing and, as I was just mentioning, trying to figure out how to play certain patterns that I may hear on other instruments as well, whether it's a fiddle, melody section, or a mandolin break in a song, or maybe a guitar riff or something. As those notes are there, it's just a matter of coordinating with Clawhammer the right hand and the left hand. There's so much going on with Clawhammer. Sometimes it's so frustrating. I'm just thinking, why don't I just play three finger? This would be so much easier. But that requires another, thousands of hours of practice that I don't really. I've given three finger a shot, and it maybe someday it'll happen. But I have this bluegrass banjo hanging on the wall behind me, and I have my finger picks at the ready. But I don't know. It just for whatever reason, I just can't get over the big initial hurdle of feeling comfortable and smooth. But anyway, with the Clawhammer, it is an interesting challenge. It always feels like a puzzle, figuring out how to use the right hand technique with, this technique called drop thumb, and blending that with your left hand, all the tricks that you have there, pull-offs and hammer-ons and slides, and where on the neck it makes sense to play certain patterns. And some things just don't work Clawhammer style, but I just keep trying, and I eventually will find ways to play these dense Irish tunes or these unusual bluegrass licks, or at least I'll play something that's close enough that it kind of works. But sometimes I fail, and that's fine too. There are definitely tunes and songs I've tried to learn on Clawhammer that I just can't get it for whatever reason. Some of them just aren't Clawhammerable.
Oh my gosh, I have so many questions. But hey, why don't we take a listen to Foggy Mountain Special just for a second? We'll listen to 30 seconds of it. You playing that Foggy Mountain Special. All right, here we go. Gonna play it. That was Foggy Mountain Special, and now I kind of want to listen to, it's actually the next track on your Chimney Swifts album. It's Old Grimes, and I want to take a listen to this right after Foggy Mountain Special, just because you're doing those Scruggs licks, Clawhammer style, sounds so cool, and then your playing is so sweet and fluid, and I for lack of a better word, strummy and rich on Old Grimes, in a complete old time style that I kind of want to hear the two next to each other. This is super nerding out, but if that's okay with you, let's listen to Old Grimes. Okay, here we go. Yeah, that was Old Grimes, and that to me is when people hear Clawhammer banjo and they kind of fall in love with it. It's like a tune like that. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I love the flow of that melody, and Rachel Eddy, wonderful guitarist, joining in on that track.
Oh, nice.
And it's fun to explore the many different ways that you can play Clawhammer, and that sweet sort of classic old time banjo sound on that track is definitely something that, alongside the improvisation and the explorative nature of the instrument, it is also fun to explore the beauty of the instrument and the sustain of the notes and the warmth and depth of the instrument, especially when you play in different tunings. And I really, early on was very inspired by Adam Hurt's playing and how melodic and elegant his approach is. And so that's another side of what I enjoy doing on the banjo, especially without this that solo album. There's no fiddle on the record, and part of that was not. I love the fiddle. I play fiddle, but I really wanted to center Clawhammer as a central melodic voice and demonstrate that this is something that can occupy the melodic space that sometimes a fiddle might in a session.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. I hear what you're saying about Adam Hurt. I can hear a little of maybe that influence in there. That's really nice. Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, I have to ask, we're going to get kind of personal here. When you're listening to your own banjo playing, is there anything that you like about your banjo playing? Is there anything that sounds funny? No, what do you like about your playing, or if you don't want to answer that, what do you feel like you might need to improve? I guess what are your thoughts on your own banjo playing? I mean, yeah.
No, this is great. This is sort of evolving into like a banjo therapy.
Now it's banjo
session.
therapy.
It's good. Yeah, no, it's good.
I just warmed you up until this moment.
That's a great question, because it's something that I think any musician to look honestly at themselves. Where can they improve? Where are the next areas to work on? And it's always an evolving process. Learning and continuing to learn is just why I keep playing and keep learning new tunes and enjoy playing with new people and digging deeper into the musical relationships I already have. But in terms of my specific banjo playing, I think I'm very happy with how the tone I'm able to pull out of the instrument has evolved over the years, being able to have a really clear and controlled sound that every note can be enunciated. So when I'm playing a tune, it does, clearly state what the melody is. And then with that, being able to control the dynamics pretty quickly, going from, soft to loud and having that control in the right hand is something that I definitely am really happy with how that's evolved over the years. And then in the context of playing with others, I like to think that I'm a good listener and enjoy the interactive nature of the music. And as I was mentioning earlier, playing in that session with Frank Evans, hearing a Scruggs lick and trying to chase that and find, how can I do this in this tune? Like the next time through, try to echo that line and really listening. It's so much more fun to play music with other people when you're listening and have big ears and interacting with them, and not just, especially if you're performing on a stage and not just kind of being in your own world, but interacting with everybody up there or in a jam or just casually playing with people. It's always more fun when it's conversational and communicative. And I certainly, I love playing with folks who have that kind of similar energy. So that's something I'd say there's always more room to grow there, and being able to hear more, and know when to play something and when not to play something. That's kind of everything. But in terms of things that I would like to improve, I still think, even though I improvise, I would like to expand my improvisational vocabulary and be able to speak a bit more fluently in different kinds of improvisational ideas. So I feel like I have my kind of bag of tricks that I lean on a lot when I'm improvising, and that's fine. But I think I would like to be able to think about improvising a little bit outside the box of my go-to licks and ideas, and be able to come up with new melodic ideas on the fly, and have maybe more of a stronger theory background. I don't really know as much about music theory as I'd probably like to admit. And I think digging into that side of things would probably allow me to have just more variety in terms of what I play when I'm improvising. And then also being able to write tunes that sound particularly unique from one to the next is something that I'd like to keep working on. I've written a bunch of tunes over the years, but there are certainly some themes that appear in them that I think, everyone has their style, but I think I can be a little bit more diverse with the kinds of sounds that I create when I'm writing tunes. So I think exploring more of the improvisational side of my playing, and then digging into just a more nuanced approach to tune writing and more disciplined. Honestly, I don't write as many tunes as I would like to, and I just don't. I need to carve out the time to and make time for tune writing and being more. I mean, I love playing fiddle. I love playing guitar. I get easily distracted by other instruments here at my house. I play upright bass sometimes. I'll get out my shoes and practice flat footing. So it's sometimes easier to grab that low hanging fruit of like a more intermediate kind of level of playing where I really want to, just improve my skills on another instrument. But really what I would love to do, and I think I will do in the future, is spend more time refocusing on exploring more with Clawhammer and finding more ways to build on that improvising ability and coming up with new ideas on the instrument.
I agree with you. I think improvising is something that we can always work on, and it's a cool thing because you're never really done. You know how like you learn a melody and you're like, okay, I got the melody, great, I can play the song. Maybe I learned the melody up the neck, now I can play it 2 different ways. But the improvising never really ends. And sometimes when I'm playing shows or something, and I'll be like, yeah, I know how to improvise, I'm playing pretty well and I'm doing something cool here, and then I play with someone that's really good at improvising and then it always reminds me, I'm like, oh yeah, well, what did they just do? Oh my gosh, like, and it kind of like steps you up to the next level. And so, yeah, it's something we can all work on.
I like going out to the local bluegrass jam here in town. There's an every other week opposite the old time jam. There's a bluegrass jam, and I bring my banjo and play Clawhammer, and try to take some breaks on some bluegrass tunes and songs. And yeah, you're right. There are so many other folks, especially in the bluegrass world, who improvise. That's like their bread and butter is improvising. And it is humbling sometimes, and I know those notes are out there, and it's just a matter of putting in the time to just have a richer vocabulary of ideas.
Yeah, totally. Well, we've been talking for a little while now. I knew this was going to be long-winded because as soon as we started talking, we noticed that we had the same shirt. Not on today, but I have the same shirt as Brad, and then we started talking about that for like 15 minutes. So I'm
take as much time as you need. I'm happy to talk banjo. This is great.
I love it. I love talking banjo. I mean, I thought I was the nerdiest banjo player, but then I found you, and now I don't feel so alone.
I'll take that as a compliment.
Yes, it is. I mean, I think it is. So I think of you as a solid professional banjo player, and someone that knows their craft, knows what they're doing, has put a lot of time into what they're doing. So I'm gearing you up for the next question here. You're a great banjo player, but the question is, if you stopped your career right now, if you stopped playing banjo and decided to do something different, not related to old time music, would you consider yourself successful if you stopped doing what you're doing right now? Like with what you've done so far.
That's such a good question. It's an interesting question because it's a little different than the question. So I have sort of this is a mildly snarky answer to this question. So you can stop me anytime if you're like, Brad, this is too much.
Bring it on.
But it's sort of a morbid answer as well, because I think, this question often feels like if your life ended today and you didn't play, and that was it, would you consider yourself to be successful? But I actually think of this as if I stopped my career and did something else, I wouldn't really consider my banjo career to be successful, because I think of it as my banjo journey is really, it's the success I think of is fulfilling what I would be capable of as a musician and as a community organizer as well. And I feel like there's still more music to create. There's more events to instigate and more of a vibrant community to cultivate. So if I changed careers, that would mean that I'd be giving up on, that side of things. So I guess in that sense, I would say that it wouldn't be as successful as I think I could be. And I don't want to say that I'm like not proud of the music I've done and the things that I've recorded over the years with City Junction or with my dad or with others and the community we've built here. But if the question were something like, if I was hit by a bus tomorrow and, then I would say, yes, I'm totally satisfied and feel like I'm successful with the work I've done in these few decades playing. I hope that's not too like strange of an answer to your question.
No, I think it's kind of like I'm imagining like a scrapbook that you've made of all your like newspaper clippings of all the things that you've done, and then like you look back and you're like, I'm all right. Like I've done all right, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so yes, I would say absolutely very grateful for the experiences I've had, and I feel very proud of the music and the community that I've been involved with. There's a quote actually that I want to share that I was reminded of in this question. I was at the Folk Alliance conference in Kansas City this past spring or this past winter, and it's this big gathering of roots and folk musicians and industry people from around the world. And Janice Ian, great musician, was there, and she said, something that sets artists apart is our perception of time. Artists are born looking at the hourglass and watching it run out. The rest of the world measures time in birthdays, anniversaries, weekends, but we measure time by whether or not we have accomplished what we feel our talent allows. I really like that quote. Wow. Because it's just thinking about that hourglass and success being marked by how much can we get out of our playing. And so that's why I think of changing careers now as being I would be unsuccessful then. I wouldn't have really gotten the fullest out of what I think we're capable of.
I love that quote. That's amazing. Can you say the beginning part again? Because it went by so fast. I want to hear it
Something
again.
that sets artists apart is our perception of time. Artists are born looking at the hourglass and watching it run out. The rest of the world measures time in birthdays, anniversaries, weekends, but we measure time by whether or not we have accomplished what we feel our talent allows.
Oh, I love that. I love it so much. That's great. Yeah. I just had my birthday 2 days ago, so now I'm feeling like that's great. I try to like ignore my birthday these days. So that makes me feel extra good. And that's a great quote. All right. Well, I'm just trying to think about you and how you stay so focused and motivated with all the things that you're doing. Do you have any advice for us out there, us weaklings that need to make thousands of lists every day and just try to get one thing done? How do you do what you do? Any advice?
I have thousands of lists, and this big checklist over here that stares me in the face every time I open my computer. But I think that what keeps me inspired is having a diversity of events and opportunities to experience music, and really, at least for me, being able to go to a jam just as a participant, and going to a jam as a jam leader sometimes, or going to a concert just to soak in music, and then going to a show to play on the stage. Or, you could just extend that, going to a dance to play in the band, or going to dance, and making sure that I'm always participating in these events as much as I'm involved with them behind the scenes, and really re-inspiring myself over and over again at these events, and not focusing too much on just the music or just the organizing, and having a blend of that, and making time to go to things like Clifftop and go to festivals just for fun, and really making sure that I'm always refocusing on what initially got me into this path of doing music as a career, and listening to music just to listen to music. I'm a radio host and host programs and listen to music as my job, but I also love listening to music and different kinds of music that I may share on the air, but also just making sure that I'm always making time to just enjoy this music as a listener, as a fan, and as a participant, and not always thinking of it as this is my, like, I need to play well in this jam so it improves my stature in the local community, or I need to nail this lick in this song on a big stage at a festival. It's like just trying to make sure that I'm always just trying to enjoy.
No, that's the secret, I think. That's
and
like the
but
Buddhist
that's really
mindset
that's
too, just being in the moment and not really looking at the finish line. You're kind of enjoying the process, enjoying what you decided to do with your life.
Yeah, and I feel so fortunate, I talk about this with my friends here in Baltimore, that we have such a great community here in town of just a real vibrant young scene with folks who have moved to town just because of the community and the opportunities to play. And it's really after all these years of hosting these jams and dances and putting on this festival and it's really paying off in these past 5 years or so. The scene has just really grown, and I love being in this town and having so many great musicians here, but also I still need to refill the well and get out of town and go to other places and play with other people, and reminding myself to do that pretty often is very calibrating.
Oh, I know. I hear you. And I'm so glad you did this here today, being on Banjo Chat. And I do want to just kind of wrap it up here and remind the folks that are listening to go to the Brooklyn, or to go to the Baltimore. Go to the Brooklyn Old Time Festival, but also go to the Baltimore Old Time Festival in next April.
You can do both.
Yes, yeah. You can definitely do both. Check out. You have an album with your dad. It's called Ken and Brad Kolodner, Stony Run.
Yes,
that's
right.
A great album. And also check out Charm City Junction's Duckpin album is the most recent, but now you have one coming out soon, which is great. And your Chimney Swift solo album, and I think you have also more solo stuff coming soon. Is that right?
Hopefully, yeah. I'm always now that I've done one solo record, I'm now thinking about what the next one might look like. And also, if you play banjo, I teach as well. So I have an online banjo lesson channel on True Fire. It's called Clawhammer Corner.
I love it.
And it's just lessons, tune tutorials, technique lessons, different workshops, tablature, all that good stuff. So you can, in addition to taking Hillary's wonderful classes, soak it all in. There's a lot to be learned out there.
In fact, I always say it's best to learn from a lot of teachers because you learn so much. So go to Clawhammer Corner, check it out. And then do you have what's your radio station?
So I host on Folk Alley, so you can listen online, folkalley.com, and you can also hear me on Bluegrass Country Radio, which is out of Washington, D.C., but it streams online. That's bluegrasscountry.org, and you can learn more about all that stuff, and drop me a line. If you want to say hi, you can email me. I'm online, easy to find, bradkolodner.com. And thanks for having me and having this banjo chat. Really excited to listen to all the other future episodes.
I feel like we could just keep chatting, but we'll just have to have you on again.
Well, it's funny because we will, because I years ago at a festival I realized that I was running into the same people over and over again. Like, we'll be seeing each other at these things hopefully for many decades to come.
Yep.
And so I'm sure we will cross paths again soon and maybe play some tunes.
I hope so, and I think so. So, well, thanks so much, Brad, and we'll see you soon.
See ya.
And thanks everyone for listening. We're kind of just jumping into this. So if you have any questions or comments or any feedback, you can email us at banjochatpodcast@gmail.com. That's the name of this podcast, Banjo Chat, followed by podcast @gmail.com. If you'd like to support the Banjo Chat podcast, all you got to do is help it along with a little like, a little subscribe, and a little review, and that'll help boost it a little bit so I can keep making these for you. Thanks so much.